College football week 11. I'm Kelly Stewart here on Bet On It, powered by Wager Talk TV. Let's bring in Marco D'Angelo and Joe Raineri. Joe, is it Casual Friday here on the show? You got a T-shirt on?
Yep.
You're just giving up all hope, huh?
Yeah. It's Hurricane Wednesday, so I go right from here, and I have to throw on my bathing suit because I'm going to be swimming in about 6 hours. So should be an awful lot of fun, Kel. But have no fear,
fingers crossed,
it's on its way to you.
Lose.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Fingers crossed we do not lose any power or internet during the show. Of course, some prayers and good vibes to those being affected, including our own Joe Raineri. You guys stay safe out there. Marco D'Angelo, speaking of staying safe, out in Las Vegas. It's pretty cold right now. I can't say that I missed that one.
Actually, I got snow on Mount Charleston last night. They had significant snowfall. So, yeah. The world's upside down right now, but I know one thing, and I don't want to make fun of a hurricane, but Joe, hopefully when this hurricane touches down, hits land, it'll have the same impact as the Miami hurricanes, and you'll be safe.
Knew it. I just knew it was coming. You had to mix in Cristobal, didn't you? You couldn't leave it alone, Marco. You had to go there.
I stayed away this week. I didn't draw that straw, but when we get to the NFL show, I was a glutton for punishment and went back to the well with one of my friends that we'll talk about that on the pro show. I'm just trying to get back in Kelly's good graces because she wouldn't talk to me all weekend.
Hey, it's not my fault. Again, there was a lot of mishaps, but we're going to get into some big game breakdowns here. SEC play Saturday, CBS, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Alabama is a 11.5-point favorite at Ole Miss. Total 63.5. And you guys want to know what I did? I left my notebook with all of my notes regarding this game on my kitchen counter. Okay. Ralph Michaels, I made some significant phone calls for this one, and it may be my best bet for the end of the show. Marco D'Angelo, your thoughts on maybe Alabama losing 2 in a row on the road?
Yeah, Kelly, the first thing that you look at in this game, and I'll explain what my problem is, this would be an automatic fade Alabama. If this would be any other team, because when you get that second loss, it's absolutely dream crusher time. You're done. You're out of the playoffs. But the minute they lost that game, people are trying to spin how a 2-loss Alabama team can still make the playoffs. And if Nick Saban can sell that to these kids, then they may show up to play. I don't think that they have any shot of making the playoffs. They shouldn't with 2 losses. Granted, they were 2 gut-wrenching losses. I mean, when you talk about it, you had a knuckleball field goal go through against Tennessee on the final play of the game. And then how about Brian Kelly? You want to talk about a big set. He brought him out. He went for the 2-point conversion. Instant legend in LSU. That's one way to secure the alumni is beat Alabama and do it in the fashion that he did. So for Alabama, I think they'll still show up. But if they don't show up 100% mentally, where I think you're going to see it is on the defensive side of the ball. That's where it takes more effort. We talk about that in both football and basketball. It takes more energy and effort to play defense than it does to play offense. And I think you're going to see both teams go up and down the field in this one. And talk about history, Alabama, the last 5 years against Mississippi, listen to their point totals. 42, 63, 59, 62, 66 points. You know where I'm going. I'm going to take the over in this one, and I just think it's going to be an absolute track meet, and that's where I'm going to be. But if it was any other team other than Alabama, I would be on the dog big in this one for the Dream Crusher game.
Well, some of us have bigger cojones than others, but again, we'll get to that one at the end of the show. Joe Raineri, there's a lot of narratives at play here. One in particular, Saban against former assistants, Alabama off a loss. Which one are you going to go with here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the one where Lane Kiffin has his 3 baby mamas show up at the... No, I'm kidding. I'm going to go with the one that has Lane Kiffin wanting... I mean, wanting this game really, really bad. There is still an outside chance here with Ole Miss obviously playing for an SEC championship. And listen, Lane knows, Nick. He knows that offense. He knows that team. And he knows, we've seen this now, the scripted portion of this play, ladies and gentlemen. We saw him do it to LSU, which was really the best team that Ole Miss had played up until that particular point. And what did they do? They smacked him around in the first half of that game, only to come back in the second half and get absolutely steamrolled. We have seen Alabama start slow before, a la Texas. We've seen it in Tennessee. They don't get off to these great starts. We're starting to see that with Ohio State as well, but that's a different story. But they're not this gun team where we're going to run you over right away. We're going to go in 28-3 and we're going to coast from there. That's not what's going on with this Alabama team. I think Saban's going to have to do just an unbelievable job of coaching up and making it seem as if this game really matters to this team. You don't go to Alabama to play in the who gives a shit bowl. And anything outside of a playoff is a who gives a shit bowl. And they don't want nothing to do with that. So it would not shock me if Saban's got close to a coronary at halftime, trying to get these kids up for it. But Lane Kiffin wants this. Lane Kiffin will figure out a way to go into the break with the lead. And in that case, I'm going to take the touchdown, the 7.5. Give it to me in the first half with Ole Miss getting it done here early.
Something I haven't seen in my betting lifetime, let's call it 2011. Alabama 40-1 currently to win the Natty. That is just crazy to see. Saturday, ABC, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. TCU, Big 12 darling. 7-point underdog at Texas, total 65. Joe, I'm going to kick it back to you here. I think TCU is going to be a square dog, but that does not mean that I think they can't go into Austin and win this game. Your thoughts on the Horned Frogs, who have played well above their level all season long? Can they do it again?
Yeah, well, that's the real question, right? Can they do it again? So here's what we know. First of all, I believe Quentin Jefferson, got to know what the health of him is. The number one wide receiver for TCU had a bit of an ankle injury in the last game. Still waiting to figure out whether or not only is he going to go, but is he going to be 100%? What this comes down to is TCU probably going to have a little hard time running the ball. But they're not going to have a problem passing on that secondary of Texas, which is where that defense has the biggest holes. A la Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders. We saw how you can pick that secondary apart, and I think Sonny Dykes and Dugan, they'll figure out a way to get it going. I also know that Texas, like we just watched them, who'd they play? Kansas, I think it was, or K-State. They had no problem handing the ball off and running it down a pretty good run defense's throat there. So Robinson was very, very good. They're going to be able to throw. They're going to be able to run. What I'm getting to here is I don't want nothing to do with the side in the full game here. I'm looking at the total because I think both of these teams are going to be going out there and scoring. I think we're getting at least 5 touchdowns in the first half. I think the first half total is 33. I can see this one absolutely being 21-14 at half or, 24-14, somewhere in that ballpark there. I think both offenses are going to have success against the other team's defenses. Ultimately, this game's going to be decided in the fourth quarter, and we all know how great Sarkisian is in the fourth quarter and second halves, which is why I'm going first half only, but I'm going over 33, Cal.
Yeah, Marco, part of me really wants TCU to win this game because, well, then that means K-State has an outside chance to get into the Big 12 championship game, but they've been great as an underdog. Joe mentioned Sarkisian. We know that he's had kind of a roller coaster ride there, particularly as a favorite of 7 points or more, just 2-8 against the spread in the Big 12, win being 7 points or less. So your thoughts here with the Horns? I know they were your best bet last week.
Yeah, Kelly, we had a 5% play on Texas, and I had to sweat the second half, as Joe said, and that was all coach inflicted. Sarkisian, I mean, they were absolutely destroying Kansas State, running the football in the first half. And he comes out in the second half with a big lead, and he's throwing the football on first down 3 straight series. I'm like, what are you doing? You're putting yourself in bad down and distances. I get it. Once in a while, you want to take a shot, change it up, try to hit that big play, but not 3 series in a row that resulted then in 3 punts, and it let Kansas State get back in the ball game. So that's a concern. Let me start with, all season we've been accused of disrespecting TCU here on this show. All right. Well, I want everybody to, let the people in Vegas know how they're disrespecting TCU. They're number 4 and they're getting a touchdown here. What the hell's going on with that? I looked at that number and I swear to God, I went back and looked at the Wager Talk odds screen and I said, yeah, it says 7. Then I went and checked another odds screen just to make sure we didn't have an error, and that was at 7. And I'm like, how is this 7? But,
don't worry, I won't tell Johnny that you're cheating on his odds screen.
I give them their due, and the fact that TCU's getting a touchdown here, yes, they're going to be that sharp, square dog this week. And we know how that's worked out so far this year for the majority of the time. Penn State against Michigan. UCLA against Oregon, and then there was one just a week ago, I forget. But it doesn't usually work out. Well, Tennessee against Georgia, everybody was on that.
Oh, what about Tennessee? What about Tennessee versus Alabama? It was the squarest of the square dogs. Mm-hmm. That one was the squarest of the squarest of the squarest, and Tennessee won that game. I'm just thinking, like, college football, we might have to have a little asterisk next to some of them. Yes, you cherry picked a few, but I know we can find quite a few square dogs that have kind of surprised us. And I think that TCU does deserve a little bit of credit here, Marco.
They do, Kelly. But now, let's go with the other narrative. They've been on the outside looking in. They're now on the inside, and all they got to do is win. Now it's a whole different game because before you weren't there yet. You weren't invited to the party. But if the season ended today, they're crashing that party. So I'm going to go with Texas. And to be honest, I should have pulled a play out of Joe's playbook and went first half because we know Sarkisian's problems in the second half. But I'm going with Texas. I'm going to go ahead and lay the points. I agree 100% on the over in this game. I've got Texas winning 41-31. There's going to just be a scoring after scoring in this game. I would be absolutely shocked if this game doesn't get into the 70s with these two teams. But give me Texas here in this one. And yes, you can bash me on YouTube and Twitter that I'm not giving TCU any respect. But I think now that they're in, it's a whole different ball game as far as the pressure for them.
I'm going to be a big horned frogs. There you go. Joe with the horns down. That's going to be great for the comment section that Marco has to read. It's going to be perfect. I agree with you, Marco and Joe. Both these games look like absolute and utter shootouts. So hopefully we get some entertainment this afternoon. I'll be down in Waco, hopefully not watching either one of these. Let's kick it over to Ralph Michaels now for some TNA. There's my guy that I call, way too early in the frickin' morning. You guys, if you need a stat, I'll give you guys Ralph's phone number. You guys can bother him as much as I do. He's absolutely incredible. Always willing to take my call so that I can either make a case for a team or maybe stay off a team. And that is exactly what we do here on TNA. College football, Ralph, right in the peak of things. We've seen some bubble bursts. We've seen some crazy things happen. But we're going to start off. We've got 4 systems today and a nerd chart from your son, Jeff.
Yeah, and let's start with the chart. Part of the reason is it goes into a system I have as well. And I get this question asked often. How the hell do you come up with these things that have so many connectors and you look for the record? So I asked my son to break one down and show you how you build a system. So first, he looked up on the top line when an AP team, a top 5 AP team is off a loss going back to 2010. Those teams are 39.3%. So that is a fade situation like Clemson and like Tennessee. Now, when we look at what the line was in their next game, if those teams were a favorite or 7 or more, it goes down to 36.2%. Then you break down at how many points they scored their last game. Is there a gap there where you see a better record? There clearly was. So if they scored 37 points or less, it's 31.9%. And then we look at previous yardage, how much those teams gained. If they gained under 300 yards, those teams are 26.3%. So this system, if read in its entirety, fade an AP top 5 team off a loss that scored 37 points or less and had under 300 yards and is now a favorite of 7 or more. We'll see since 2010, the last 13 years, those teams have only covered 26.3% against the spread. Those two teams in this week's situation, fade Clemson and fade the Tennessee Volunteers.
Ralph, asking for my best bet, of course, because that's what we're here, is just for my information only. Kidding. But why do we use the AP, not the college football playoff? Is there anything there that's differentiating? Because we do know that sometimes those rankings can be different.
Well, yeah, they're always different, but the AP you have for the entire season. The college football playoff rankings we only have at the end, plus the AP is in the history of the database where the college football playoff rankings are only the past several years. So when you're looking at historical data, you need to have a data set to put in, which goes back for that period of time.
Okay, great stuff. Now I have my clarification. Can you tell me, though, why Alabama didn't make this fade?
Well, they weren't an AP top 5 team. They had fallen out of the AP top 5. So, we talked about this earlier, Kel. The first system I have is very similar to this. And it's sort of, a subset. Game number 7 on, if you're off your first loss, I call it, a bubble burst loss. Like Tennessee and Clemson, those teams are only 44%. So that's something I've always looked at. My son's was a little more specific because it was an AT top 5, but just blindly saying since 1989, from game number 7 on, if you are off your first loss of the season, you have only covered 44% of the time. So much to the same ado as the first one, but I just wanted to give you a very wide range system. I have 3 more that I want to go over. The first, since 2018, if you have a team that is off a loss as a double-digit favorite and now is a small dog or a favorite up to 3 touchdowns. So you have a wide gap of lines. Basically, you're a favorite up to 21 or you're a small dog of 1, 2, or 3 points. Those teams have gone 36.2%. So this is another fade situation. The team that we're looking to fade this week is Arkansas. Arkansas last week lost to Liberty, laying 2 touchdowns. They're a small dog this week, so they fit into a 36.2% system, which says to fade Arkansas. The next system is also a fade situation. If you are at home and you're a dog of 3 or more, and your opponent is off a loss as a home favorite. So every system we do, we can say it 2 ways. I'm going to say it the opposite way just so you're clear. So if we're saying playing a home dog versus an opponent off a loss as an away favorite, it's like saying play on a team off a home loss as a favorite that is now an away favorite of over 3. They are the exact same system, said 2 different ways. One is a fade situation, one's a play on. Well, I'm going to go back and say I'm using the fade one because that's the way I found the system. Home teams, dog of over 3, and their opponent is off a previous home loss. That says to fade West Virginia and fade Nevada. The record 60 wins, 92 losses, and 3 pushes. That's 39.5%. And again, 2 teams apply, fade West Virginia, fade Nevada. Now I have another fade Nevada system, a big one, and it's not a subset. It's completely different than that previous fade Nevada one. Teams that have rest, you're off a bye week, you have over 11 days of rest. You're a home dog of 19.5 or more. You're a losing team, You're a losing team and you played a road game and your opponent played at home. So there are a couple convoluted things, but when you think it through, it's not bad. A home dog of 19.5 with rest, that's a losing team that played on the road last week against an opponent that played at home. Kel, since 1989, this system has covered 13.9%. That means it's an 86.1% fade on Nevada or an 86% play on Boise State. One that I am looking at. I actually have this game as one of my late phone plays. So two different systems, both say to fade Nevada, totally unrelated to each other. And the last one, an away favorite of over 6.5 that has a winning percentage of 60% or higher, and they scored under 17 points last week. So a winning team, they're an away favorite of 6.5 or more, so you know they're the superior team this week. Last week, they played a very good opponent, or their offense underachieved. Those teams have gone 70.4% against the spread. This system says to play on James Madison. They are facing Old Dominion. So, fade Tennessee and Clemson, fade Arkansas, fade West Virginia and Nevada, fade Nevada again in another system, and play on James Madison.
Ralph, you know how I know you've been in this industry for a long time? You mentioned phone plays. That is too funny. I remember seeing some of those ads when I was a kid on NFL Sundays. Thank you to Ralph at Cal Sports LV. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow. Feel free to tweet him. He answers tons of questions every single day on Twitter. If you've got something you want him to look up, I'm sure he can get it done for you. Thank you again, Ralph.
Up 192 units over the past 365 days, Ralph Michaels and Akeem Profit to that number 1 and number 2 in NBA profit combined. Sitting in number 1 is Ralph Michaels at 107 units, and right behind him in number 2 is Akeem Profit picking up 86 units. For a limited time, you can get 7 days of NBA picks from both Ralph Michaels and Akeem Profit for only $69, coming out to less than $10 per day or less than $5 per day per handicapper. This special discounted price includes all NBA client releases over the next 7 days, including any rare 5% NBA best bets, generally priced at $35. You don't want to miss out on this 2-for-1 from our number 2 and 1.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It is now time for those barking dogs. Marco Barco. Let's hear what you got.
All right, I got a dog that's going to bark, Kelly, and it's a big puppy. We got a 6.5 point dog. I should get bonus points here.
Woo.
No small Chihuahua here for you. We're taking Syracuse, and I'm going to subscribe to this scenario that Florida State, I haven't got to say this in a while. This is one of those fat and sassy plays. Florida State just absolutely took Miami of Florida out behind the woodshed and beat the crap out of them. And just when Miami was thinking the game was over and they started to get up off the mat, they just kicked them right in the face one more time. I mean, they never called the dogs off. They were having too much fun on the sidelines in that one, and that makes me automatically look to fade them this week. Now, when we look at the opponent, we see Syracuse, they've lost 3 in a row. Why do I want any part of them? Well, let's dissect those 3 losses. And it started, they lost to Clemson, and they had Clemson beat. They were 6-0 to start the season. They were winning that game into the fourth quarter. Clemson benched DJ. They scored 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter and stole that game 27-21. Clemson had the carryover effect, the hangover effect the following week. They lost the same game twice. That's why right here on this show, we were on Notre Dame big in that game on the show and for the clients, and they lost to Notre Dame. They followed that up last week with a bad performance. No question about it. Pitt's not played well this year, but after back-to-back losses against Clemson and Notre Dame, you go to Pitt. That's anticlimactic, so to speak. They're already bowl eligible at 6 wins, but now they're back home. Final home game of the season. They're an underdog. I love them in this role. I think they take Florida State to the limit in this one, and I'm going to go ahead and call for the outright upset, so do a little sprinkle. You know me, getting a good defense. They're number 11 allowing just 4.7 yards per play. They're 15th in the country at points allowed per game at 18.4. Yeah, give me that almost a touchdown. Call it Syracuse 28-24.
I love it, Marco. You do know that, well, never mind. We'll just save it for another episode of Bet on It. Joe Raineri, who is your barking dog for this week?
Well, listen, if Marco is getting credit here for a 6.5-point dog, then what the hell am I getting for a 16.5-point dog, which is exactly what Navy is going up against the Fighting Irish. And look at that, it's come down even more now. 15.5 right now here, Cal. And this opened up at 17.5. So I think we're on to something here. More importantly, look at that total in the game. So I'm getting over 2 touchdowns in a game that's lined at what, 38.5, 39? I mean, we're talking about a Notre Dame team who is 0-4 this year as a double-digit favorite. Right? They're good when they're a dog, a small dog. They are no good when they are expected to win. It's a very young Notre Dame team. The midshipmen here match up very well, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They can play with Notre Dame in the trenches, no problem. Notre Dame's not going to throw the ball all over the yard. This game is going to be won or lost in the trenches, which is a spot Navy absolutely wants this game to be in. It's entirely too many points. I mean, anything over 2 touchdowns, laying it with Notre Dame. Good luck with a game that's got 38.5 as a total. I think Navy's going to hang around. They're going to bleed the clock. They're going to have some success here. This is a huge game for them. And yes, Notre Dame, nice pickup win last week. But yeah, I think that we might just be in for a little bit of a letdown spot here for Notre Dame. I think Navy is worth the play here, Cal, with this total at this price. Maybe a little sprinkle as well. You never know. It worked for Marshall.
Oh, it did work for Marshall. And what else was it? Georgia Southern? Is that who else they lost to? There was some other ridiculously double-digit underdogs they lost to.
Stanford
as well.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
Good times. I love when I love both of your guys' barking dogs. Both of those are on my underdog list. Joe, I'm going to kick it back to you. Fade the public. What you got for me? College football, week 11.
Yeah, week 11 here, and it's interesting, Cal. I decided to go the route of a total here, and I am the public from the minute this line was open couldn't wait to bet the over. And they bet it again, and they're going to keep betting it. And, of course, I am talking about North Carolina taking on Wake Forest. And the public just loves getting some points here, right? Give me some points. Give me some points. This is a ridiculous amount of friggin' points here, all right? And the fact of the matter is that, yes, I get 59-53, 58-55. That's been the last 2 seasons here. But so many things have to go right in order to be able to hit this total to go up and over. And some of the things, if I get, and I think North Carolina is a little bit underrated because I think the defense and certainly the offense have been playing much, much better. I don't know if there's a difference between North Carolina and Clemson. The market apparently thinks so, but I don't think so here. I think North Carolina is going to have a couple of defensive stops. We've seen Wake Forest play a little bit of D as well, and that's all we need, Cal, for this thing to stay woefully under 77.5, 78, because I still think it's going up before kickoff here. So while I get the public loves their unders and they expect absolutely no defense whatsoever, I'm willing to take the chance here and say, you know what? I'm going under. That many people loving it over. I'm going to go under here and expect one of the 2 defenses to make a few stops along the way.
Unfortunately, I don't trust North Carolina's defense to be able to do that, but I agree with you, Joe. This number is high, and I'm going to guess it's only going to get bet one direction between now and Saturday. Marco D'Angelo is trying to kiss up to me now. That's why I said I'm not going to say anything nice to him on this show. But go ahead, Marco. You have the floor.
Excuse me, did I miss when you actually did ever say something nice to me on the show?
Oh, Marco D'Angelo,
Somebody have a
Solid
point
point.
for that?
It's a solid
all
point.
When
the
did that
time.
happen?
I give you props. I give you pats on the back. I tell you what a great job you're doing.
Okay, then you always introduce Ralph for TNA, and he's your favorite
I
guy.
love Ralph.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
well,
I
did you
see how
answer
it
my
is.
call at 7:30 Pacific this morning? No, but you know
Nope.
who did? Ralph did.
Yeah.
Ralph answered my call. You're too busy sleeping in and getting your kitchen remodeled.
Ooh.
Oh, Kelly, just because you moved to the East Coast, some of us still live on the West Coast. Kelly thinks that the world revolves around what time zone she is in.
That's correct. That's correct. East is the best. Go ahead.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair accusation. It just depends where I'm at in the world at that point in time. This weekend I'll be on Central Time Zone, so yes, I'll have a little bit more understanding of what it's like to get a 5:30 a.m. phone call.
I should have, but I actually should have texted you because I did not go to bed till 2:30 last night, working on the Bet On It note. So that would have been 5:30 your time. So okay, yeah, I was sleeping.
Love
when
it.
you were texting this morning. Yes, I'm kissing up to Kelly with Kansas State. All kidding aside, there hasn't been a bigger Kansas State fan next to Kelly this year than me. All right. Last week, I always tell you, you got to bet with your head and not your heart. And as much as it pained me to do, I had to bet against Kansas State because the spot was just not right. They were coming off that 48-0 laugher the week before. But now, and I got to give them credit. They were in a bad spot last week. They fell behind big time in the first half, and this team did not quit. And that's a sign of a good team. They kept coming at Texas, and they actually had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to tie it, and I was sweating because if that game went to overtime, I was a loser with Texas. No question about it. All the momentum was Kansas State. Now they're catching Baylor. And this is the sandwich game. You know, I look at the situation, and you've got Baylor coming off beating Oklahoma last week. I don't care what Oklahoma's record is. Any team in the Big 12 right now that beats Oklahoma or Texas is giddy about it, okay? They're leaving for the SEC. Oklahoma's been the top dog in the conference forever. They all want to kick them when they're down. That was a big win for Baylor. What's an even bigger game for Baylor is if TCU moves on, they're still undefeated next week. Guess who Baylor plays? They are playing TCU. So you talk about a sandwich spot, you're looking at coming off Oklahoma, and you got undefeated TCU on deck. And Kansas State, although I think they're one of the better teams in the Big 12, they're not the name of the Big 12. So this is the sandwich spot for them. I like teams that play defense, and Kansas State does play defense. So they're the better defensive team in this game. I like their running game. Their running game sets up the passing game. Adrian Martinez had a good game. He had his first interception of the season last week. One interception. This kid's played, I shouldn't say kid, I should say this old man because he's been in college football, it seems like forever. But this is not the Adrian Martinez we saw at Nebraska. You got to figure Scott Frost screwed him up because he's playing at a different level this year. I like them in this one. I'm going to take the points. Yeah, it's a small number, but anytime I can get any points with the better defense, throw in the situation that we have, I'm there. Give me Kansas State. And here's a little stat for you. Kansas State, the last 3 seasons, when they're coming off a loss, they're 9-1 against the spread the next week. Give me Kansas State. I was going to even wear a K-State T-shirt this week or something.
Oh, sure you were, Marco.
Try to get back in Kelly's good graces.
So, Marco, do you have 6.5 or 7?
Well, I have 7, unfortunately.
Yeah, good.
I got to the party. I got to the party a little late.
This is exactly where K-State gets its revenge for you. They're going to lose to Baylor. They'll be lucky to win and push your season win total against West Virginia, which I'll get a cash. And then they're going to f around and lose to KU just for you. All right, guys, when we come back, it's time for Best Bets.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at Wager Talk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at Wager Talk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to wagertalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It's now time for Best Bets, and in every single week fashion, I get to go first, ladies first, even though I said in the earlier segment that I had bigger cojones than Marco, and that is because I'm going to take the Ole Miss Rebels plus 11.5 over Alabama, and I am going to call for a little sprinkle on that money line, outright upset, if you will, because this is an Alabama bubble burst scenario. The last 11 seasons, since 2011, they've never been in this scenario. They've never dropped 2 straight. They've never been on the outside looking in, and they're on the way outside looking in now with those 2 losses. There's no way a 3-loss Alabama team is going to get in, and they know that. But I don't think it matters to Lane Kiffin and this Rebs offense. 17th in the nation in scoring, 37.4 points per game. I think this game is going to be a shootout, and that contradicts all of the trends and angles that Ralph Michaels so kindly gave me at 7:30 this morning. But I'm going to throw all those out the window and say that Lane Kiffin gets one over here on his former assistant, at least against the spread, if not outright. Give me the Ole Miss Rebels plus 11.5. Marco D'Angelo, I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself. I can't even talk. Show me how big your cojones are.
Well, Kelly, I'll never have a set as big as yours. There's no question about that. I'm going with Arkansas, and this could have been in the trap game segment, could have been barking dog, but then I'd have got yelled at because it's too small of a dog for you, and you just, so many demands. But this is just a great, great spot to take Arkansas. And I'm going to take them here because I'm all about going against LSU. Great game. And hats off to Brian Kelly going for the 2-point conversion and winning the game. Like I said, he became an instant coaching legend down in LSU. But I don't know how he gets this team ready to play this week. They're ranked 10th in the country. Arkansas is not ranked, and they're getting only 3 points in this game. This is a rivalry game for Arkansas, obviously. Every year, this used to be the game on Thanksgiving Friday. Look forward to these games all the time. I like them here. 5-4 on the season. They have nothing to lose. They need one more win to become bowl eligible, and to knock off LSU would make their season. But you got to look at it. I also have an angle for you here. In this angle, this is a league-wide college football, not Team Pacific. You're looking at playing against a road team off a home upset as a 7 or more point home dog if they have a winning record and are playing another team with a winning record. As I said, Arkansas is 5-4. Blindly playing this angle, 52-22 the last 74 times it's came up in college football. I'll do that. Fat and sassy LSU. They're probably still partying down there. Let's go. I know your friend Megan's probably still partying, Kelly, with this one. Let's go ahead. Take Arkansas plus the points. I'm going to call it 34-27.
I, too, played Arkansas plus 3 earlier in the week, and she tweeted, I feel sorry for your bankroll or something like that, because I said I was apologizing to her, and she's like, don't apologize to me, apologize to your bankroll. But I do like the Hogs here, catching the field goal at home, and a spot that probably nobody's going to give them an opportunity to win. So I like it. Maybe it is worth a barking dog sprinkle there, Marco. Joe Raineri, I cannot believe it is already week 11 in college football. Best bets. We've been on a roller coaster ride, but I need a winner from you today.
Yes, absolutely. And this is, listen, hard to believe, but here we are in week 11, and not one of us has actually backed the most profitable team in college football this year. And that would be Tulane here, guys, who are a ridiculous 8-1 against the number heading into this week 11 matchup against the UCF Knights. And it goes even further than that. Willie Fritz, the head coach of Tulane, since he got there back in 2016, get a load of these numbers. At home, Tulane, 26-11 against the number, 70% getting it done, and yet this is about minus 120, minus 125 on the money line here. It's a short number. I see twos. There's some 2.5s. But the money line at minus 120 for the most profitable team to get it done that nobody talks about, going up against a UCF team and Gus Malzahn, who I will say this, in the last 2 weeks, it was sweat job city for UCF backers against Cincinnati, and even last week against Memphis. Both of those games easily could have gone the other way, and UCF would have a couple of losses on their hands. I'm not sold on UCF or Gus Malzahn. I am sold on Tulane getting it done at an extremely reasonable price like they have done since 2016 with Willie Fritz at home. They are winning this game outright, so I'll take them on the money line there, Cal. Minus 125 right now for Tulane.
I like that one as well. Did you know, fun fact, Drew Martin Betts, big Willie Fitz fan, and not sure where that connection came from by him, but we talk about him a lot on every game on the board. Yep. We're going to take our last commercial break, and when we return, it's time for the recap.
The college basketball season is less than 1 week away, and the season starts with a bang. There are 126 games scheduled for Monday, November 7th, with Baylor and Mississippi Valley State tipping off at noon Eastern Time. We have 2 ways to help you get this season underway. Number 1, as we did for the start of the NHL season and as well as the beginning of the NBA season, all 7-day college basketball packages will be only $49 through Sunday, November 13th at midnight. Number 2, head to Ralph Michaels' homepage at wagertalk.com and get the free 100-page college basketball preview. The shortcut to Ralph's page is wt.buzz/rm. This 100-page guide has returning starters, percentage of returning minutes, last season's overall stats, as well as conference-only statistics, plus against the spread and over-under data. It also includes coaching data, conference previews, and a forecast for each conference. Whether it's a 7-day college basketball package, checking the Wager Talk odds page for updated numbers, or downloading the free college basketball guide, enjoy this season. And March Madness will be here before we know it.
Oh, our producer, Dan, he never gets any recognition. Good luck to his Eagles this week. Oh, wait, that being said, let's go to the recap here. I keep trying to mush his team. It's not working out well for me. Alabama at Ole Miss. Ole Miss first half +7 for Joe. Marco says, don't overthink it. Just take the over. And our graphics director, Will, so kindly gave me Ole Miss +12 because he must have been looking at the Wager Talk odds screen. I also forgot to mention Ole Miss off a bye. Extra week to prepare for that Alabama team. Why not? Next on the big games, TCU, Texas, first half over 33 for Joe. Marco said he's laying it with the Horns for 2 weeks in a row. I'm just cheering for TCU so we can see some absolute utter in the Big 12. Barking Dogs, Navy +15.5, Syracuse +6.5. I like both of those. Fade Joe Public. Joe said this line is too high. Do not fall for it, and don't bet it until probably Saturday morning. Under 77.5, North Carolina. Wake, sandwich game. Marco's trying to suck up to me and say this is a sandwich spot for the Baylor Bears. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but give him K-State +2.5. His best bet is Arkansas +3, which I already bet. And now Joe Raineri put me on to Tulane money line over UCF. As always, thank you guys for hanging out with us each and every Wednesday here on the college football edition of Bet On It. From Joe, Ralph, Marco, and myself, we'll see you next Wednesday. Until then, let's bet on it.